he bought it because of that. That's
and also
insane.
got some for you from you.
All my blue clothing goes to basically to him. If I receive something from a brand, or if I actually ask brands
for a blue shirt.
For a blue shirt. For
13, 14, I became really motivated in badminton. I wanted to be really good at it, and I was considering to go to a different club, which played higher on higher levels, and maybe have some better sparring partners to become really good. And then when I was 15, I got injured. I had Osgood Slatter. It's a knee injury where you grow really fast and train a lot. And then I was like, okay, I still did play badminton, but with a lot of pain. And I was like, I need to do something else to keep me busy. And then I came across a video of a calisthenics guy, Corey Hall. I don't know, is he popular? Was he popular?
I don't think a lot of people might know him. I mean, we know him quite a lot because that's how we started. Like Frank Medrano, he's still quite big.
Frank Medrano as well.
But
I saw that and was like, I want to do that. That's cool, and it's mostly upper body, so it's like my knees get rest, so I can do just calisthenics. So I bought a pull bar. My father hung it on the wall, and that's basically how it started. And learning some skills, and then 1 year went by, and the stand
I joined.
Basically joined, and we did it on a regular basis, 2 times a week.
And that's interesting. How did you guys meet?
That's interesting. Well, we know each other since elementary school, actually.
Yeah,
and we were not really friends back then. Well, we didn't dislike each other, but
he was running way in front of me. He was just running way in front of me.
Yeah, and
I was fat, and he was he was just running.
So yeah, we went to the same high school, and then 2nd grade we became friends and started to work out together.
I was doing YouTube. And you sometimes joined, like
for the sketches.
Yeah, we made some random sketches.
That are the best videos, by the way. Do not watch them.
They're not.
Still online on Brownie?
Some maybe. Don't
Okay.
watch it. Okay.
Go there, scroll down, watch it.
Yes. But yeah, we basically and re-met there.
Yeah.
Re-met.
And I want to say something, because the calisthenics back then, what we did, that was the purest form of calisthenics for me.
Yeah.
That was just going to a playground and the whole afternoon just work out, just train, not knowing what to do, but just trying out stuff, trying out to learn a muscle
Lots
up,
of push-ups.
lots of crazy explosive push-ups, the freestyle push-ups.
That's what we did.
And that was just the
Yeah, that
best
was
time, actually. I was
Yeah, that
really
was
happy
fun.
back then. It was really fun.
I'm not sure, maybe I'm asking a stupid question here, but I remember that you were in one of his videos much later, like, oh, he's back. Was it like a long gap between?
Well, then the story continues, because
Okay.
I started to do calisthenics, and my knee injury became better, so badminton became more prominent for me, and I again wanted to become really good at badminton, so I focused on badminton more, and calisthenics became sort of on the
Because
background.
he's not saying it, but you gotta understand that it's like badminton at a really high level, or just calisthenics on the side. That's
Yeah.
basically what it is. So
That's-
are you going for something that you can grow and you're already really good at, and just becoming really, really good, like highest level of the Netherlands, or just calisthenics on the side? That's
Yeah,
basically
that
how you
was
looked at it, and that's what it was. Calisthenics was probably your.
I really loved it.
Yeah, you loved it.
But that's the thing with me. When I find something that I really enjoy, then I want to go all in and want to become really good at it. And for me, it was always a choice, and it was always a struggle for me, because I like both. I like a lot of sports, so that's always a struggle for me. Because it's sometimes hard to combine stuff, because I felt that the soreness of the working out really didn't help with badminton.
It's like, how often did you train there?
Well, there were times 7 times a week, and sometimes 2 times a day, actually. So it was really intense.
There you go. There
Yeah.
you go.
I think the cool thing here is something that we discussed in previous episodes as well, is that if you really want to become the best at something, you have to focus on one thing, and that's in business, that's in sport, that's in everything. And I think it's
So
really
true.
good that you said I really focused on one thing, and how I said in the episode was about me, like, I know I should be doing it, but I just, like you, I like so many things, and I just do too many things.
And badminton and calisthenics could definitely go together.
Sure.
Calisthenics could complement badminton as well, but not at a high level. Like you're going to play badminton at a high level, and calisthenics, like just the color blue. Well, in general, what we just discussed, but they together grow the channel also like crazy. Yes, Mr. Beast is Mr. Beast as a person, and he is the one who gets like the interviews or the which also makes sense because he started like 8 years ago or 10 years ago, and he grew it. But they are part of the videos, which also have a lot of impact, and they also on itself, they don't really have channels, or they do have social media, but they do a lot of work inside the company Mr. Beast, which is insanely important for the entire channel. So that is something. Without them, they could not do it without each other. So I think that's an interesting work together.
I think for you it would be the same. You are, it's Brownie, it's your channel, but the guy in the blue shirt is very important. I think your Brownie Jr. is also very important. People are like, because we had a lot of questions for him as well on the
exactly.
Instagram. So it just complements each other, and it doesn't mean that it is about them, but it just makes the brand so much stronger. But still, it's your brand, right?
Yeah,
so that's
exactly. But I would say that can I make Brownie work alone? Yes. Would it be a lot less optimal? Definitely. And would Arjen be the guy in blue shirt without me? I'm not too sure. But you could build your brand around it right now. But without that video, it would not have popped. But you could do it alone right now. There. Would it be optimal? Also, definitely not. So
because it works.
It works together. So there is a sort of nuance to the branding, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you need you do not need someone else. But I think if you have find the right combination, which we did, then it is just one big dub, one big win. That's what Brownie Jr. always says, big dub. So I thought there's my ode to.
Yeah, there's so many things I would like to still ask you, but I do think that we have to stick a bit to the topic. There's one thing that you said earlier, which I just want to discuss, and that is where you said, with psychology, you were more interested in going from the 7 to the 8. So basically, you were, and that reminds me of one of the things that we want this podcast in general to be about as well, which is productivity gains and sort of peak performance. Because if you're looking about a 7 to 8, I'm sure that there's things that you've learned in there. Are there any nuggets or a bit of value that you think this is, if you're doing okay, but this is really cool to do to go to the next level?
Well, the big thing that stuck with me, from what I've learned from psychology, is that knowing why people do things and knowing that it's not always a conscious decision, and knowing the influence the environment has on people, and just accepting that and basically just knowing that really helps with understanding why things happen and why there are some people that do crazy stuff, and because it really explains a lot for me when I see people do weird stuff, or just decisions where you're like, why would they do that? And just realizing that there's a lot that goes into people, I think that is really important, and how maybe you can translate that to individual level in a way. Well, can you help me? How you can translate that to peak performance, maybe? But
yeah, so I think if you look at peak performance, and that's cool that you mentioned environment. Number one thing, if you want to improve, is fixing your environment.
Oh, true, exactly. Yeah,
and it's normally what they say is it's environment, biology, mindset. Environment is the most important, and I think the easiest way to explain this is if I want to become healthier and maybe lose weight, I can either not grab the chocolate from the fridge, so that's mindset, or not have it in the fridge in the first place. So if I fix my environment, you guys build this studio, I'm sure you're more productive when you work here than you were working from your...
it's optimized,
because the environment is better. There's no distractions. So I know that I will sleep better if I don't eat chocolate, so that's the biology. And just by fixing my environment, I will sleep better, I will get my goals, and then I don't have to spend mental energy. So I think that's why it's cool that you said that.
And a big environment change, which would be a more drastic one, is changing who you go to basically work with.
Yeah, 100%. They say you're the average of the 5 people closest around you.
Exactly.
And I think it's pretty true. And I think that's just the cool thing about knowing about peak performance, and especially if you look at it from a psychological point of view. And what you said really strikes that, I think, where it's interesting to see, hey, someone does something a bit weird, but then, but let's have a look at why he does that. And I think that's super interesting.
Yeah.
To look at.
Yeah. Sure.
Okay. So I think I want to go into a few random things that people might want to know about you, or definitely want to know about you, because those were part of the questions. So, you are vegan, right?
True.
For how long?
1.5 years.
Okay, cool. So that's the thing people might not know.
True.
Was that related to the decision of the study?
Definitely, that was
study
because I was vegetarian since I was 16, and that was just basically climate change was the biggest one.
The biggest why?
The biggest why for me. and then the other things around it came. But that was definitely
on the same level, and vice versa. So it works like that. So,
Yeah, especially if you see he can do it, then you feel like, oh, I should also be able to do this. So,
yeah, yes, and then learn from each other. So yeah, it definitely has its big pros. But for optimization, that's why we probably said. And luckily for this one, we can also have both.
Yeah.
But there is a clear answer, so that's nice.
Yeah. All right. So normally now we would go to what is a standard day and those things, but we already had an episode with you. So if you haven't seen that episode, check it out. Super cool about the guy in the blue shirt.
I think we hinted at it already.
Yeah, I mostly do calisthenics. I train skills, I train volume, but I also do weighted calisthenics, and I think that's a perfect mix, but we get into that later. But also do some compounds like squats and deadlifts from time to time. And that's it.
I second that.
Yeah.
Basically that. Yeah, I do like calisthenics mainly. 80% calisthenics, and then skills as well, combined there, and basic stuff like that. But also some heavy compounds. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. For me, it's always been more gym. Until about 7 years ago, I did 2 years of only calisthenics. Went back to almost only gym, and now we had the lockdown, so I did like a year of only calisthenics. I would say for me, it's more with weights in general than what I do.
And he's saying 7 years, and we haven't even trained 7 years.
That's true.
That's true. Yeah, I think I went to the gym like probably 13 years ago for the first time. 12, but I mean in the beginning it was like like a lot of people start with like a pro split. I had no clue what I was doing, and actually finding a gym buddy who was really reading up on it and really interested in it helped me to actually get more.
And also the facts and the science and stuff like that.
So he was much more into that, and I was just like, I want to get a girl.
Let's go to the gym. Want to get a girl. And it's fun how you now sort of grew into like more, because recently there was a study found, that's what you told me, and I found very interesting, that your entire workout, you will have more performance if you cool your hands during the workout. So you grab something cool in between sets, your performance will go up by 30%?
No, 300. So
300?
Your progress, and it's super cool. Giving credit where credit is due, there is a podcast called the Huberman Lab. That's where it's from. And basically what they say is the reason why if you do a lot of sets, and you first set you can do 10 pull-ups, and maybe second set 10 pull-ups, at some point it goes to 5 or 4 because you're getting tired. Our core temperature inside starts to go higher and higher, and our body starts protecting ourselves by putting more energy, of course, towards cooling down the core. We don't want to overheat, and that's why you get not as good in your reps. However, if you grab something cold, and they're actually creating like a device for it now to do this, your core, your hand, palm of your hands is one of the best ways to cool down your core temperature, and that way you don't overheat and you can actually get more reps. So by doing that, your 6th and 7th set will almost be as good as your first rep and set.
So that's where the performance is really showing. So it's not necessarily you can now, instead of do like 10 pull-ups, you can now do I don't know, what you say, 30 times. So you can now do
three times more. 300%.
Oh, 300%. I was all right. So there you go. So you can now do like 30. Now it's about later in the set.
Yeah, basically, if you do it for a longer time, what they said is your total volume you can do is about 3 times as high as if you don't do that. And a lot of professional athletes it's not just in the gym, it's with a lot of things. It's a super cool study, and it's pretty funny. I was actually in the gym this week, and I was standing like this the whole time. Between every set, I had like a cold water bottle. At some point, someone asked, like, why are you standing like this? And I got a super cool discussion about this, because it's not really...
It really sounds like something Wim Hof would recommend.
Yeah. So grab something cold in between your workouts.
I mean, it kind of makes sense.
Or between your sets, even. Yeah. So we stood here with 3 guys in this gym here downstairs, and we grabbed the poles of the calisthenics bars. Nice. But I mean, that's sort of interesting stuff. And,
but how does that work in winter times when you train outside? For example, the hardcore calisthenics.
Well, I mean, there's a difference between your outside body temperature and your core body temperature, and it's about the core body temperature that starts to overheat. So, but probably if you do outdoor calisthenics, the bars are so cold that you're automatically cooling. But I don't know. It's a good question.
Be an interesting follow-up study.
Yeah. So Dr. Huberman.
2 people that do calisthenics and work outside when it's really cold. Do you feel like in winter you have more performance? That's a question.
Yeah.
Maybe people do not necessarily experience it, but that's because of an entire other reason. Because they're heavier, and then during summer they're leaner, and then they can.
Could be.
So that it sort of evens out. But it could be.
I mean, if I think about my outside workouts, but it's also because
outside.
It's outside and it's cold outside. But normally you would take less rest, but maybe because you feel cool or cold, but I think also maybe because you feel ready faster. Maybe. I don't know, but this is completely speculating right now.
Exactly, but this is fun.
I want to change my dilemma to outside.
I want to train outside. Only when it's cold.
Yeah, only when it's cold.
Or just have like a bucket of ice and just put your hands in it. Or I think there was something about it shouldn't be too big of a. I don't remember, but
maybe gradually. So if you grab something cold, it goes gradual.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah.
Let's go.
Anyway,
let's go.
Yeah, so that's what we do. But now let's look at what is better: the body weight versus weight training. And where should we start?
Well, let's look at aesthetics. What do you think builds the better body? And this is all very subjective, but that's why we're here, and also trying to get up with some facts. But what do you think is better?
Yeah, it's also a hard question because I like to combine the stuff, the two worlds. But for the sake of what's better, we split it up. But for aesthetics-wise, I think calisthenics provides some benefits because you have to pull your own body weight. It's not really beneficial to be really heavy. So to have a high fat percentage, that's not really beneficial for calisthenics. So I think doing calisthenics helps in that way because more aesthetics-wise, you have.
As a calisthenics athlete, you tend to be more leaner because of the entire calisthenics.
Yeah.
So the physique on itself is more leaner, but
it's not really because of calisthenics. That's the main point. But
I mean, I do think there's a difference though in
exactly.
body composition.
I do think that there is a difference as well. When I would say resistance training is resistance training. It's all about genetics. If you build a big chest, if your chest is going to be like insanely popping and you have a really sick upper chest and stuff like that, that's just workouts, and you train more with different types of training. But like how they look, I mean, you can't change the connections of your body, like your chest and stuff like that. But
no, but I do think there's a difference if you see a calisthenics athlete's body compared to someone who lifts heavier weights. Because I actually saw a difference sort of from going from the gym to calisthenics. Like the way, it's hard to say, it's a bit fuller. I think the muscles, if you go to a gym with weight training, it is. But with calisthenics, there's a lot more like small little muscles you need for balance. And like if you ask me, I think the physique of a calisthenics athlete it looks more natural, and with that, I think it looks better aesthetic-wise. The only thing is, most calisthenics athletes don't have legs.
That's a big one. That's a bit
fair.
But I also want to add that weight training does provide a benefit with isolating muscles and really work on your weak points, where calisthenics more focuses on compound movements and general strength. So I do think that if you want to perfectionize your physique, weight training really has an advantage over calisthenics to be able to specialize certain muscle groups, like the rear delsing. Of course, you can train, especially with rings in calisthenics, you can do a lot of exercises to isolate as well. But I do think the bodybuilding weight training has the edge there.
So when I look at the cliche calisthenics athlete or a cliche bodybuilder, or at least like men's physique stuff like that, I do prefer the men's physique or bodybuilding in terms of how well built it is. So that's my opinion there.
In proportion, maybe.
Yeah, and also just like you said, they can isolate muscles more and thus work on certain muscles more specifically.
But I do think that people who train weights and do more bodybuilding stuff, they focus on their physique and just also focus on their weak points. And calisthenics athletes aren't that much focused around their physique or weak points. Of course they are.
We are. But
of course they are.
I get your
in a
point.
different way.
In a different way, especially people who train skills and just want to get more reps, stronger in calisthenics movements.
Exactly. It's a completely different sport. So it's not about, I mean, the physique, everyone is busy with it, everyone is working on it.
Course.
But it's like, let's say the isolation movements for bodybuilding, the time they spend on that, much more time as a calisthenics athlete is spent on getting that one arm pull up instead of that bigger bicep. You know, it's that difference, and but that's a completely different story. So that's not really about physique.
Just a little side step here. I actually had a workout last week with a guy who is a men's physique athlete, and we did some core training. I mean, if you look at him, you would expect him to have a much stronger core than me. However, he had to stop after like 20 seconds the whole time. So there's such a big difference, I think, because in calisthenics you always activate your core. If you want to do any skill, even pull-ups, everything, it's all correlated. But of course, there's and I think that illustrates his point. Bodybuilding and physique is more looking at the aesthetics and making sure it looks best. But calisthenics is more like what's functional and what do I need in order to be able to progress and have that
Yeah.
sort of skill.
So we're working from looks, which is very subjective, but with bodybuilding, you would say you can work on specific muscles a little bit more, which is why it could be superior. But depending on like the small muscles, like you said, you could also work your back, for example. Like there's so many small muscles in your back that could make it pop a little more. But if you look at functionality, and it's a different story, then I would say 100% calisthenics.
Yeah, but I also want to say that if you properly schedule or structure your calisthenics workout, you can make it like identical in the way of isolation and muscle groups you work. So I think that there's an option, but it's more convenient for people who train at the gym, I think.
Definitely.
Yeah. So I think another very interesting one is injuries.
Ooh,
What is more? Where do you get more injuries?
I think that's a double-edged sword.
Definitely.
For sure, because with calisthenics you train more of your tendons, your tendon strength, and also just provide a little bit more stress on the weaker parts, and that's why they become stronger and you get more resistant to injuries. But the risk of injuries may be also higher because you push your body a little bit more. So there's like
I think you guys. There's a YouTube video from you guys doing like 8,500 push-ups in a day in total, and I think that's 2.5 weeks ago. Right now, how are your elbows feeling?
a little sore.
And again, it's very extreme. That's not a normal workout.
Yeah, but the fact that let's look at calisthenics from its core. If you look at basics, pull-ups, push-ups, it definitely like it's basic, right? So it's on your like hard on your tendon could be.
Yeah, but it should be fine.
Should be fine.
That's pretty safe.
And then as a beginner with weights, I would say, or as a guy in gym with weights, there's a lot more ways you could probably injure yourself because of like it's not your body, so there's like something external. But then if you're gonna look at skills, for example, heavy stuff, skills, it definitely is a lot more injury sensitive than with weights, like body weight stuff, workouts. But I would say if you're gonna go crazy, like 501 kilogram deadlift, you're a little bit on the edge. I would say that will be definitely more injury sensitive there. But then you can also go with calisthenics. You can go to the 8,000 plus push-ups. So it's like you said, a double-edged sword. Freestyle calisthenics, that wins for me. I would say.
But I mean, that's almost a different sport, right?
Yeah, that's a different sport.
Yeah. But I think for just daily life injury risk, so for example, you'll pull something heavy to pick something up, I think calisthenics has the edge there because when you focus on weight training, and especially focus on isolating muscles, isolation work, then you work the muscle, but not really learn how to combine the muscles and work together as a whole unit. And with calisthenics, basically all compound movements, you really learn to work with your whole body. And I think also the stabilization muscles really helps to protect your joints.
Yeah, and I think maybe going back to, so normally if you do it properly, but I think with it does both. So if you first go to the gym, it's pretty important to start with machines. Don't pick up dumbbells or free weights yet. Just let your body get used to lifting something external. Resistant. A lot of people start benching straight away, do like a lot of dumbbell things, and because you don't have the stabilization, you're not used to it, you get injured. Same with calisthenics. Start with basics in order to, if you start with the human flag, your first workout, you're probably gonna screw up your. I mean, let's be honest. We all start relatively fast with cool skills.
Yeah, we try to as fast as possible.
Yeah, but we shouldn't. Now, I think in terms of like injury, one of the main things with going to the gym is, if I think about all my friends who go to the gym, we're not really used to looking at our flexibility, and that creates an issue picking up things like you said, going heavy on deadlifts. If you're not flexible, you're actually gonna screw up your back or do other things. In the calisthenics community, I think it's much more normal that you actually also work on your flexibility, because if you want to do a proper handstand, if you want to do those things, you need some flexibility, and that in turn prevents a lot of injuries along the way as well.
So for injury sensitivity, you would say, well, if you're gonna go for free weights or just like weights in general, it will probably be more injury sensitive than like basic calisthenics, right?
Yeah.
If you just do basics, but calisthenics would win this injury sensitivity if you're gonna go like to skills or stuff like that. That's so hard on the tendons and the joints. But then you can also go crazy on weights with
heavy deadlifts and
501 kilogram stuff like that.
But actually, just if I think about, I've been injured a few times in the gym, it's always with the lighter weights, because if you pick up a very heavy weight, you're going to make sure your posture is really good and you're really thinking about it. But for example, with a warm-up and you pick up a relatively light weight, or you're doing something, then you're not really paying attention, you pick it up and you actually get injured. So that's also a fun little thing.
Yeah,
That's
and
interesting.
the form as well. Like form in calisthenics is very important, but because it's body weight, I feel like if you do a push-up, you would have to do a push-up really weird to get injured there. But to get a bench press, you wouldn't have to go really heavy. You just have to get the wrong like grip
Angle
and
with your
yeah,
shoulder.
wrong
Yeah.
anger, the wrong angle, the wrong angle, and you're sort of done.
Yeah.
So I would say that's definitely more injury sensitive then. But then again, calisthenics can win again with crazier stuff like 8,000 plus push-ups or
Yeah.
freestyle.
Because you're never going to do 8,000